All right, good evening and welcome to the regular Heath City Council meeting, March 10th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is now called to order. If you'd all rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please.
Dear Lord, we come to you today with hearts full of gratitude and hope for our community and our nation. We pray for the safety of our first responders, the police officers, firefighters, medical personnel who serve us selflessly every day. Please keep them out of harm's way and return them safely to their families. We also pray for the well-being and the security of our Heath residents. Lord, we ask that you guide our city leaders, grant them the wisdom, clarity to make the right decisions to lead our city forward, especially as we continue to improving our city to be a premier lake community. We ask that your presence be with our soldiers who are bravely serving our country, protect them in the missions, and give them the strength and courage and their families, and bring them home safely. This we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. God bless Texas.
All right, thank you, Councilman. At this time, we'll move into agenda item number 2. This is our public comment section. Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Mayor, council members, there's no one here to speak tonight.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Alexander. Moving into agenda item number 3, this is our city manager comments and council comments. Mr. Alexander.
Mr. Mayor, I have no comments.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. At this time, the chair will open the floor for any council members that have any comments. If there are no comments at this time, very well, we'll move into agenda item number 4. We'll go right into some public hearings this evening. 4.A, we'll be holding a public hearing. This is just to discuss and act on case number FV 202601 for a resolution granting a variance to Chapter 157.02, fences in residential areas, Section C of the Heath Code of Ordinances, that would allow for 48 feet of a 7-foot tall stucco wall within the SF 43 single-family residential district on a 3-acre property located at 1204 Smurl Drive, City of Heath, Rockwell County. Mr. Gonzalez.
Sir, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. And the applicants are here, Mr. and Mrs. Chad Estes, and they have three items here that are scheduled before you, all within the same subdivision. And the first one that we're looking at this evening is going to deal with their SF 43, or residentially zoned property. And in this case, what the applicant is asking to do is to exceed the maximum height for a front yard fence. And what the code says in that is that the front yard fence can be a maximum of 5 feet. Well, it's maximum 4 feet. Staff can approve up to 5 feet with certain requirements. And in this case, where we're looking, what we look at is the elements of the front portion of the fence, which are the stucco elements. Let me go back here to this and show you the property as it sits. This is a visual of the property, a photo that was taken, I think yesterday, from Lisa. Just kind of gives you, it's vacant property at this point. These are neighboring properties. The one up on the left side, it's just across the street. You can see there are no fences there, but so just trying to show you the characteristics of the area. Carriage Hill Estates, though, however, has, whoops, hit the button by accident. Carriage Hill Estates, however, has, you can see they have a masonry wall, and you can see the columns, where those columns are, that is wrought iron fence behind there. And drove by there earlier today, and that's been trimmed up. So that's not a current picture. So that does show the open area that we expect from a 75% transparency. So we take a look at the 1204 request at this time. What we're primarily looking at in this request is associated with these stucco panels right here. They're about 16 feet long for each one, and they have decorative planters right alongside this. Wall sconces here to light up the entryway. This sits back about 60 feet from Smurl Drive as well. And then the other portion on this is going to be the black metal fencing that they're providing here. What they're showing you, what they're indicating here are horizontal members. These are 4 inches wide, and they have about a 6-inch space between them. So the transparency here is less than 75%. The ordinance requires a minimum of 75% transparency, and that's to have an open air, the ability to have open air and visibility for properties that are large properties and within the city of Heath. The gate design is a 7-foot tall gate. Gates within the residential area can be 7 foot tall. So the gate is fine as far as the height, but when you take a look at the slats that are there, they're showing a 2-inch wide slat and 2 inches between each slat. So that becomes a 50% transparency. So with this in mind, the fence, the black metal panel fence that runs along outside of the stucco panels, those are 5 feet. Those are 5 foot in height of what the applicant has indicated to us. So those meet the ordinance requirements. What doesn't meet is the transparency portion of this. Now, what we have in the packet here this evening is that the stucco wall panels, at the entrance, which sits back about 60 feet here, as you can see, those are the items here that are coming before you for the variance, simply because they are 7 feet tall. They exceed the 2 foot. They exceed the fence height requirement by 2 feet. Once again, the gate sets back about 60 feet. The total frontage on here is about 145 feet. When you take a look at the 5-foot fencing, it's 49 feet on each side here for this. Now, the one thing I do need to indicate with this is that the fence, the 5-foot fencing, the 49 foot on each side, the black metal panel fencing, from staff's understanding prior to the public notices going out, it was our understanding that the transparency was not going to be an issue. And so that's where you see a conflict here in this tonight. And so what staff has wanted to put forward here is that should you decide to go ahead and approve the resolution here to allow for the 7-foot tall sections, if you decide to go ahead and approve that, then this would need to come back as well in order to approve the 5-foot tall metal fence for the transparency. That transparency sets actually about 42% right now. And so just wanted to put that out there, want to put that on the table for you to understand that portion of it. But also what I want to do is just go over some previous, a little bit of history here and what's happened prior to the adoption of this ordinance. In 2024, staff had 6 requests for fence variances. Most of 5 of these were approved, and most of these were for 5-foot fences. So during this period of time, prior to the adoption of this ordinance in January of 2025, a 4-foot fence, anything beyond 4 feet, would have to come before City Council for approval. And so there were several fence variances that were coming before the body, and they were just 5 feet tall. So, so with that in mind, Council made a change to the ordinance in 2025. And one item as well that stood out from the 2024 was the transparency issue as well. It was brought up at that time that that the city wanted to maintain an open air, open space view as you're driving down the roadways, and not to have anything that was going to block visibility. And I'm saying this as part of this application for the stucco panels that are being requested, as well as what you're going to see on the next request that they are bringing forward to you as well. And so with the current ordinance that we have now that's in place, staff, if a fence meets the 5-foot height requirement, it doesn't come to you. If it meets all the requirements within within our ordinance, fence ordinance, then that can go forward with the building permit. And so we've had 2 last year as far as fence requirements, and only one was denied because it was requesting a 7-foot tall front yard fence and columns that exceeded the 2-foot requirement. That was a wrought iron fence as well, but that was still denied based on the height requirement. We did have one that was approved as well, but that one was a little bit different. That was in a cul-de-sac, had a large fountain, as you may recall, for those who were on council last year, that had a large fountain, and so that was a unique property. And so based on what they were requesting, a 5-foot tall fence, then that one was approved as well.
May I add, Mr. Gonzalez, that also was due to a security request.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes,
By the
yes, for security reasons. Yes, sir. And so with that being said, the ordinance is specific in here in that a determination by the council under section 157.08A allows the council to be able to make a variance to the provisions of this chapter with the public hearing, and to determine if the enforcement of this is in a particular instance, is in the best interest of the public. Does it constitute waste or inefficient use of land or other resources? Does it create an undue hardship on the applicant for a permit, or does it serve an intended purpose, or is it not effective or necessary? So in this case, the staff recommendation is that the proposed fence does not meet the requirements of the city's fence ordinance, and therefore it is discretionary to the city council to be able to allow this based on the criteria outlined in 157.08, which is in the determination I just read above. With that, the applicants do have a PowerPoint presentation for you. What they have done, they've combined both properties, the 1204 and 1212 properties together. This being a public hearing, however, and 1212 is the next PowerPoint. It's up to you, Mr. Mayor, if you would like to move forward to 1212, go through those points on that, and then have them come forward to have their presentation, or if you would like to do these individually. But I just wanted to make that presentation for you as well. Allow you to make that decision.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I would say let's keep things individual so we don't overcomplicate what we're trying to accomplish step by step, right?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
In this, you already have some complexities because you brought up transparency, in which the variance application only addresses the 7-foot height.
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay, so I just don't want to overcomplicate what we're already dealing with, right? 3
Correct.
different public hearings. At this time, council, the floor is open for any questions of Mr. Gonzalez.
Well, I have
Councilwoman
a quick
Thorogood.
one. Yeah,
Microphone.
so you brought up last year there was a fence variance that was approved. Were there neighbors that were opposed to that variance last year?
So on an approved?
Yeah, I'm just trying
Right.
to gauge the public appeal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's hard to remember exactly, but I don't recall any neighbors disapproving of the fence. In fact, I think there was even a neighbor who said, I think this is a really good idea. But I wanted to know if you could just speak to that.
Yeah, so, and we're referring to the one on Moraine Way, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I don't recall anybody having a disapproval on that, simply because of there were several other fences, including the neighbors, that
Right.
was similar in the columns, in the height
was.
of the gate, and some that were also adjacent to the neighboring properties that had taller columns and heights as well. And so I don't recall receiving anything that was negative for that particular case.
Okay, I just want to keep things kind of organized and predictable for the public because, I mean, for one, I think that's really important to me, that the neighbors approve or disapprove of a particular variance to our ordinances.
Right, yes.
Were there any neighbors, I saw that there two spoke negatively about it. Were there any neighbors that spoke positively and said, I think this is a great idea? I'm just curious.
Right, yes. And we did have 20 notices that did go out, and of those, we did receive 3. 2 are in your packet, and 1 I received yesterday, and that's the one that you have on your desk this evening. So we do have just 3 that are opposed to the applicant's request.
All 3.
Did not receive
Nothing that was
anything that
positive.
was a positive request. And that's typical. You know, sometimes we do receive those that are positive, but in this case,
Yeah.
we did not receive any.
That's why I thought maybe last time there was something.
Not what I.
I'm just not sure. I did see one. I'm not sure. It was for the other piece of property.
Okay.
And that one opposed, yes, so this are 3. Do you recall one coming forward for the church?
But it was for the back.
At the backside.
For the back,
For the
okay.
back property,
Yeah.
because that's where they let it up
Okay.
to. So, but they were positive.
That was positive.
That's the
Okay.
3rd request.
But not pertaining to this particular variance. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, council, if you're speaking, make sure that your microphones are on.
That's all I have.
Okay. I'm going to give about 60 seconds for a quick review of what's in your packet.
Mr. Gonzalez, is this just a personal design preference?
It's a personal design.
Is this a personal design preference to ask for a variance from 4 to 7? I was just trying to figure out the why. I know we've seen this before, like the mayor stated, for security reasons. But what are the reasons here? Is it just only a personal design?
That I think is, when we take a look at our ordinance, we have to take a look to see what our ordinance indicates. Our ordinance indicates for a residential area, a maximum height that staff can approve, and anything beyond that must come to council for
I
a
believe-
variance to that height.
Mr. Gonzalez, I
restriction.
believe Councilman Mormon's asking of the applicant's intent. So, Councilman Mormon, I would recommend that we ask that of the applicant when they
Okay.
take the lectern. Council, are there any other questions for staff? If there's no further questions for staff, at this time, we'll have the applicant come forward. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. If you'd just please state your name and your address.
Sure. Chad and Nicole Estes. We're at 6 Kensington Drive in Heath. Just thank y'all for taking the time to discuss this with us tonight. So just to kind of piggyback on your comment, there were a couple no's, and then I wanted to just address that the no was they weren't in favor of the design, but they weren't given the design to view. So I just wanted to clarify that. Do you want us to go through the presentation?
If your presentation covers the 7-foot tall stucco wall.
Sure. So just a little background. This acreage it's a 15-acre tract, and it's a beautiful piece of property that I think cows have been on for many years from one family that's owned it. And we bought this parcel and would love to put our residents in the back and keep it a very nice open-air space. It's been open air since we have purchased it, and we have had some theft, over $50,000 of theft, actually. because there's not a barrier. And I think because our house sits so far, or our house will sit so far in the back, it would be nice to kind of establish that entrance barrier to let thieves and other people know that, there is a residence here and they don't need to be driving, on the property all the way to the back, especially. Address anything else on that?
Yeah, we've had theft three different times over the last 3 years, and this last one was about a year ago that I filed police reports on all of them, and they stole my side-by-side Ranger, welders. It was probably $30,000 to $40,000 worth of stuff stolen off the back of the property that you can't even see from the front. And a couple times before that where they just siphoned all the fuel out of all the equipment. So we continue to have people drive out there. Actually, just had to call the police this last week because we had a person drive around on the property.
I am sorry to hear that. Thank you for that clarity.
So just to kind of go through the variance approval, we do understand the purpose of the fence ordinance and respect the city's intent for the ordinance. Our request today is simply asking for just a little flexibility due to the unique scale of the property and kind of the shotgun size with the front. We do own both of these lots, and we are currently selling the front 3 acres off. So because they're right next to each other, we wanted to create an architecturally pleasing front entrance for both at the same time. And we wanted to push them very far back off the road so they're not in line sight for people driving down the road. And then if you're pulling in, so typically gates are 30 foot back, I think, in Heath, and we've pushed this, we've doubled it. So it's 1204 is sitting 60 feet back from the entry, and then 1212 is sitting 100 feet back from the entry, just so they're, it's safe for people driving down the road, and nothing's going to be in anyone's visual way. And they're, let's see, just stating that it doesn't negatively impact safety, traffic, drainage, or neighbors. So we just kind of drew like an aerial to show how far back that really does sit, and then it kind of gives you a good visual of the stucco wall size versus the dotted line, which is the open air fencing. So.
Yeah, on the notice, it says 48 feet of stucco wall, but it's really not 48 feet, it's only 32 feet. So there is a little bit of discrepancy there.
This next slide is really helpful in showing that.
If you'd bear with me real quick, that's a material item. Mr. Gonzalez, if you'd take the lectern, please. Could you give us clarity to the statement of 48 feet versus 32 feet, and then also give us clarity? What makes this, in totality, what's the overall length of the fence itself for this property?
On 124, the overall length of that property, the overall length of the fence is a.
The total frontage is
145? Well, okay, I would say 144, 145, 145 feet for the entire length of the property,
For the 1204,
for the 1204.
okay?
And the 48 feet, how we're determining that is the wall, the stucco wall, how it is shaped. On here, we have a 8-foot portion and a 16-foot portion. When you add those two together, then that's 24, and then times 2 to 48 feet. So that's how we're measuring that portion of it.
To the applicant, do you have any?
I think the discrepancy is just, when we were measuring just the frontage.
The front linear,
And
Yeah.
not the back. We considered that the side
where you're doing the
fencing.
cut-ins?
So,
Interesting. It's a unique
Unique.
discrepancy.
Well, I think it said in the ordinance along the front building line would be measured.
so do we
Okay.
measure
That was another
across
issue
the
we had
back,
this
or-
last week. I think we've all worked pretty hard.
Okay.
Because there
Working
was-
together.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you. Mr. Alexander, do you have any thoughts to this latest piece of data? The reason I'm bringing that up is obviously if it's 32 feet and you got a linear foot of 145 feet, you know, you're falling less than 25%. So when you're dealing with the transparency concern, I recognize what we're referencing, right? So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Alexander, as far as the ordinance, and Marie, you're good, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you. Marie, you may need to weigh in, but when the ordinance states the frontage, does it allow for us to dictate the frontage being, if it becomes, I mean, it's still the front, but it cuts in? So is it the 48 feet or is it the 32 feet? I think that's a key element that this council needs to understand.
Sure, Mary, I'm looking that up right now.
Okay, great. And thank you for your patience. We're
Sure,
trying to
yeah.
do our due diligence and make sure that we're being,
Us
you know,
as
very,
well.
very good listeners, you know. And I will give a little bit of landscape to anybody listening at home or anybody in the audience. You know, we're talking about an ordinance that was established in 1997. It's very important to really understand. And then that fence ordinance has changed in two different, you know, amendments to that ordinance over the years, right? And so it is important, you know, our job is to uphold the law, and that is the law. We don't arbitrarily make decisions, and so ultimately, we've got to look at these ordinance in their original intent, look at and try to understand the amendments, and then try to understand too, you know, how do we be pragmatic in the way that we apply the laws, but also, you know, are we creating any undue hardship, or is this just a preference and, you know, we've got to ultimately be accountable to the will of the people? So just so everybody kind of understands, these are the complexities in dealing with something that does seem very simple to go, hey man, it's 7 foot versus 5 foot, stucco versus open fence, you know, what's the big deal? Right.
We kind of dug into that as well.
Okay.
And the most recent example that we found was the Demon property on 549. And they just measured the frontage. They didn't measure any back side frontage.
Okay.
So that's what we used to get our measurements as well.
Yeah, there was another one on Rabbit Ridge too, a property we used to own. It was only measured at the front.
Okay, very good.
So that's just, we dug into that as well, trying to understand if we should measure the back and the side or just.
I understand, and
Yep.
for clarity purposes, for anybody that's wondering what property that she's referencing the property in which it was 75% transparent, but ultimately, I'm not sure how it was measured as it actually has intake, because it is a security house,
Right.
or a security office, we should call it. And so I'm not sure how that was measured, so.
So back to this slide, just giving you guys the site map on the green area is where the stucco wall would be. And then showing you the overall open space area of the red. I feel like that kind of puts it into perspective. You know, we are just talking about this little section in the front. Hopefully that is helpful.
Sure. Okay. All right,
Um,
go ahead.
An aerial image, again, showing you what David just kind of referenced as well, the 16-foot across, and then the area in question is the 8-foot vertical section, or intake, I think as you called it, Mr. Mayor. You know, if that was measured or not.
Okay.
So we worked with a local landscape designer, Cutting Edge, who's done a lot of the residences and public spaces here in Heath. You know, working with professional architects, working with the city, trying to design this so they were cohesive architecturally and you weren't looking at two different styles since they are so close together. So that was the intent of doing both at the same time.
Okay, very good. All right. Is there any more to your presentation for the 1204?
That top left is the one on Rabbit Ridge we were referring to as an example. And then 2 images over with the red terracotta roof is the Beeman property we were referencing, just for comparison.
Some of these get a little complicated. Different times and dates and.
How do you go back right here?
Can I ask a question?
Some permitted, not permitted, I'm sure.
So in your application, there was a section that said, you know, would denying this cause you undue hardship? And I heard you mentioned, can you clarify to me what hardship will this cause if we do not approve this? I would like to know a little more about that.
Sure. It's a great question. Thank you. The ordinance design is typically for residential lots, and the current ordinance works well for those standard lots, but as we can kind of see, this one is a little unique. It doesn't really account for the estate scale lots. The required open air percentage limits the ability to create a cohesive entry for both properties together. We were trying to keep them cohesive, so they were architecturally pleasing to residents and neighbors. The design intent is entry defined only, and it's not intended for the whole property.
Okay,
Okay,
great question.
thank you.
Councilman Myers?
I got a question. Why did you go with stucco and not with a brick or stone? Most of all the pictures you showed us was a brick or stone entry.
And we were making it architecturally pleasing to our home as well to keep it consistent, because we do have a lot of stucco going on our house.
Okay.
Even though stone is lovely.
And so is stucco.
And yep, they're all great choices.
Are there any other questions, council, for the applicant? Councilman Obi?
I think what I see mainly is a couple of things really, I guess, is the idea of the transparency is that, and the open feel that we're looking for is as you drive down those boulevards or those thoroughfares, that it feels like countryside, not a compound to be hyperbolic. But if you drive down Smurl, there really aren't any other frontages that are this little transparency. Have you thought about any other design features that maybe could bring that up some? And just as an example, the stucco walls, if those were fenced as well, then you could put any kind of planting in that would still cover that and still get closer to that transparency number. So has there been any compromise or discussions with that with staff, or?
We've gone back and forth with the landscape architect and looking at some different ideas.
Now, did the landscape architect see the ordinance?
Yes, they do
Okay.
a lot of projects throughout Heath.
Okay.
And it was just their recommendation to keep it similar to our home. And we went on that.
Yeah, I mean, we also talked about, you know, bringing the fence up instead of 2x4 rails. I mean, if you took off 1 inch, it would meet the transparency. I mean, so to
Because
me.
the members are 4 inches versus 3 inches.
Yeah, it's just, when we do that, you know, the cost of that material is gonna be more than the 2x4 inch rectangular tubing.
You know, the hardship there, if I may, just it's a tough parallel, but it's kind of hard to be at the lectern and be like, come on, guys, it's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna look great. And then being on the elected body, we have to sit here and go, hey, it's kind of like a speed limit, you know? I mean, if it's 40 miles an hour, what's the harm you were going 43? Well, I mean, I agree too. I like to go 43 myself. But it does, trigger something to where an officer can then pull you over because you're past the speed limit. Same thing here, right? So just to draw an odd parallel, but to kind of bring it home. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll be seeing you soon. As
Yes.
we need to go through more items on this. Mr. Alexander, did you guys come to a conclusion?
Not quite yet, Mr. Mayor.
Very well. At this time, we will open the public hearing at 7:06. This public hearing is now in session. Do we have any residents to speak for or against?
I'm
If you-
resident on the next street, and I think that's very attractive.
If you'd like to take the lectern, we just have to have you on the record for the public hearing.
I'm sure y'all can hear me, but we couldn't hear her at all.
But I know, we have to have it on the record or I'll get in trouble. If you just state your name and your address for the record?
My name is Linda Bass Allen, and I live on Carriage Hill, 213, I think is
Very well.
my address. I've been there 20 years, Shirley,
Okay.
I know that. I think that's very attractive. White and stucco is very in right now, and I think it only adds to it. I don't see any detraction, and I don't understand why you can't have a 7-foot fence. I mean, you want your privacy. You know, the people next door to us has like an 11-foot fence, which is fine with me. Anyhow, I don't see any detraction. I just see that it looks very nice.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And we love to hear that feedback. Appreciate it. Any feedback is good. All right. Are there any other residents, anyone else like to speak for or against? Very well. At 7:07, this public hearing is adjourned. Council, I'm going to open the floor to entertain discussion on this. I know Mr. Alexander and council are looking over the way of measurement. Obviously, as we look at this, it is a unique circumstance because obviously the ordinance states 5 acres is allowed a 7-foot fence, right? But it's the 3 acre that triggers this specific public hearing for this variance. So just so we weigh that out. Personally, I'll also tell you, I think that it's going to look beautiful if you were allowed to build it. I think it's a great design. However, the one thing that I want to point out that's really hard for people to see, and when an elected body has to look at things like this, everything that you have on this imagery here is not what would actually be required. So just so we're very clear. So as we talk about transparency, and this is going to lead into our other discussion, so I would like to jump on it now, is that when you look at how beautiful this rendering is, the concern that I always have, and I'll make this about myself, is that those planners don't require, because there's not an ordinance that would require those plans, right? So if you were to receive a variance by any elected official body here that says, hey, you can put up a 7-foot fence and you cannot have to abide by the 75% open space inside of this ordinance, then by definition, into perpetuity, right? Any property owner, whether it be you or you sell that property or whatever, does not have to have this beauty. They can literally build a 7-foot fence, and as long as it falls in line with that variance, they can have whatever they want. So that's the complexity of what we're really talking about. I know it's really hard being an applicant or somebody in the audience or somebody at home is sitting here going, man, this is common sense. And again, this is my third time saying this, but again, that's why these decisions are really difficult. They're really difficult when you're dealing with planned developments, development agreements, when you're talking about commercial stuff, you're talking about residential stuff, and you are trying to keep the quality of life and trying to keep a level of beauty within the city. And today, we're talking about you and your property, but tomorrow we may be talking about someone else owning this property. Does that make sense? So that's also what makes this complicated. All right. So with that being said, right now, even though we are addressing transparency, that would then have to come back through because that's not cited in this public hearing. So just so we're very clear. So we're talking about transparency just in general. I think that ultimately it would be ideal that as elected officials that we give direction to the applicant on the transparency piece, but also we are specifically here to discuss the 7-foot on this specific property, 1204. Very well. So, council, do you have any other discussion items for this topic before I hand it back over to Mr. Alexander?
Well, from my perspective, Mr. Mayor, you know, the thing that gives me reason to pause on just going strictly with the ordinance as stated is the fact that they've more than doubled the setback on this piece as well, right? And one parcel of their property that we haven't spoken about yet is just, you know, enormous compared to what we typically see here. But on the 1204, I think, which is the 4-acre or 3-acre parcel, right? The 60-foot setback is, I think material. And I think that, I believe that the intent of the ordinance was for just more of the drive-by continuity from neighbor to neighbor and not so much associated with a setback that the applicant's talking about here today. So that gives me a reason to maybe think a little bit differently about this. The other piece I'd say is that, you know, I would like to see some degree of openness on the gate itself. And I think even being set back that far, you know, giving some variance for these clearly complicating issues that you and others have brought up tonight is important, but that pretty much just absolutely abandons everything that we've ever done from a fence and a gate ordinance for there to literally be no visibility through that gate whatsoever. And I think that there are a lot of different designs that could be considered in that, particularly given the fact, as the applicants have stated, that these homes are going to be so far set back from that point, even from the setbacks that these fences are, you know, potentially going to be on as well. So those are just some thoughts that I have on this piece as we talk about 1204.
Okay, very good. I'll also point out the obvious that I think is hilarious about our fence ordinance. Those have been coming to my meetings for the last 2 years. I used to call us the Council of Fences. So super excited when administratively we could take it to a 5-foot versus having to listen to every variance on every fence every single time for 1-foot variance. But I would tell you, when you think in terms of these front fences on 1-acre lots, and some are smaller than that, but in general, a lot of these developments are 1-acre lots. The height of the fence is essentially for the sides. It's the front facing, but it's the sides of your house. And so that's the 4 to 5 foot range. What you're talking about here is on 3-acre tract, right? It's more of an estate property. Obviously, when you can set it back 60 feet, by definition, you're creating an estately lot. And so there's where I think our ordinance doesn't play nice, because really the next rung up is 5 acres. And I think if you want to see more SFE 3.0, which is our 3-acre properties, which is a fairly new ordinance over the last, I believe, 4 years, I think that this ordinance probably needs to be reassessed, frankly, because I think that you're going to see more of these types of requests. But I find some of this to be entertaining, because you could require them to do a 5-foot fence with the idea that you want more open space, and they could plant cedar trees right behind the open fence, all the way down, and you never see inside of the property. And that is something that ultimately is people's workaround to creating that level of privacy. Now, some might say, hey, that's okay too, because it's a lot of greenery. But I think that, you know, if you want to see the house, that's not what we're here to really talk about, because they can literally put trees right behind the fence. All right, I know, you're rounding it out, but I'm coming back to you, because we got to move on. So on this measurement, have we figured out that measurement?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like a moment to observe the calculation made by staff on some.
Take counsel, very well. All right, so installing for Mr. Alexander to seek additional counsel with Mr. Gonzalez, let's discuss the one item that is here tonight, and that is the 7-foot stucco wall. So what, if any, do you have any discussion items? Mayor Pro Tem had a comment. Do we have any other questions or discussion for this?
I mean, I would just like to interject that although I find this incredibly beautiful, I love this. It is, like you said, it is pleasing to the eye. My concern is, you know, I always look back to, we are charged with making sure that we follow the ordinances of this city. If we believe that we need to change the ordinance, then that's something that we need to look at. But I think it's just, and I know there are exceptions, but I think it sets up a precedent for us to have to consider this every time somebody brings a variance. We have these ordinances for a reason. This is not the only issue with this fence, and I think that it's just very important for us to remember that we have these ordinances for a reason.
She's starting to sound like me. I agree. However, just to challenge that for discussion purposes, as you look at this fence, taking away the transparency part of this dialogue, because that's not technically what this item is, it's the 7 foot of the stucco wall. Let's assume that they are able to get the stucco wall into that, 25% availability. The question I would have is that, let me back up. If you look at precedent, and this was a council before all of us were sitting on the dais, is that we had an individual build a 13-foot, if I recall correctly, fence, but they weren't allowed to build it. They built it and then were caught and then came forward and then it was approved. So when we talk about precedent, I will tell you, I do have a tough time sitting here at the dais and going, hey, it is okay by precedent that if you just build it, we're not going to make you tear it down. If we're only talking about 7 foot tall stucco, not talking about transparency.
The sections,
Just talking about 7 foot.
the sections.
This one section, right, because I believe what I heard was that the transparent part, the metal fence, or wrought iron, whatever material that is, that's going to be 5 foot tall, I believe is what was stated. It's the stucco section that would be 7 foot tall.
I did not read that.
Looks like the same height as the stucco.
Yeah.
I didn't
read that.
I think this is
I don't know that this is to scale. I think this is a rendering, unless the plans say otherwise.
That's correct. This is not to scale. That's what's being just represented. That's what's indicated to staff, that it would be a 5 foot fence. And so whenever building plans come in, the building permit, if this is approved, we would verify that would be 5 foot.
Okay, so ultimately, what you're seeing right here, the stucco does look like maybe it's a foot off. It's actually more than that.
Higher, yeah.
So it would stand taller than the 5 foot.
And I would say, Mr. Mayor, to your argument about what's been done in the past, we really don't have control over that, and I get the precedent thing, but it is our job to uphold our ordinances. And so although, like I said, I believe this is beautiful. If there's a way that we can justify it within our ordinances, so be it.
Very good. Very well said. Thank you, Councilwoman.
I would
Councilwoman
only add-
Thurgood?
I would only add that last year when a similar case came before us, it was different because they had the approval of their neighbors. And that weighs heavily on me, that the neighbors have concern. I'd like to see these lovely people with this beautiful slideshow take it to the neighbors and sell them on it. And then I would perhaps feel differently. Does that make sense? I just think,
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
yeah. it's just-
I will say that it is hard because what comes from staff is the breakdown of the variance, right? So there's no rendering. It's just, hey, look, you got 48 foot of 7-foot tall stucco, right? And that's what you're receiving and that's what you're giving a correspondence on. So, but I do agree with you. It does make it a whole lot easier to make these considerations, even though I'm not sure that we've triggered, that this creates waste, that it creates undue hardship, and it violates the public interest, so.
Well, on the hardship piece, Mitch,
Go
were
ahead.
you were on
Go
the
ahead,
path.
Councilman
sir.
Dodson, go ahead.
Three ago, so I'm fine.
Okay, just give me
That's
one of
fine,
these. Okay. So from a hardship perspective, I think the applicant has already detailed that, although they weren't very front-footed on it, but could have been, with regards to the $50,000 in theft on 3 separate instances on these areas. Now, would a fence of this sort or another sort deter that? Maybe, right? Particularly if people saw the boundaries and everything else. So I believe that $50,000 is material. 3 different police reports is material, and that should be part of our consideration here as well, is the safety of the applicant and the applicant's property, which I think is also ultimately our and our DPS group's responsibility as servants of this community.
Oh, very good. Very well said. I would agree. I think that you get complexity when you get deeper into more treed areas, and it's 3 acres, and then there's an adjoining piece of property, and so it is easier to get in. Yes?
Last comment, Mr. Mayor. I agree with your statement earlier with regards to estate lots needing some updating in terms of the type of fences allowed. We want to encourage as many 3+ acre homes in our desire to have as much open space as we can preserve in this great community. And we need to encourage more people like the applicants to come in and take down properties like that and build beautiful structures and homes and develop them in a manner which is consistent with our comprehensive plan. So I'm in agreement with that, and usually what it takes is a precedent-setting occurrence to serve as the catalyst or the nidus for that type of change, and perhaps it's time that this is it. That's it.
Very good. Councilman Dodson. All right, anybody else? I'm just kidding. Councilman Oakley.
I'm a very patient man. I think it's a bit unfair to look at a height without talking about the open air or the visibility. And I don't know how we can reconcile that other than denying it and seeing what comes back next time. But that would also give you an opportunity to maybe stucco columns to get the visibility down a little bit. But again, we're going to see it again. So I don't know, again, how we reconcile whether we let this pass to the next, which will be the visibility, or we deny it and then see what we come back when we discuss visibility.
Okay.
Because I completely agree with everyone that's beautiful. On its own, it would be beautiful, but as you drive down Smurl, it's quite a divergence from a split rail right across the street nearly, and trees everywhere. So, however, we need to reconcile the visibility being included. I think that's where I would land.
Okay, very good. All very good points. I like just being in the middle on this.
I would say
Just in
too,
case I see the applicants at standard service center. Councilman Moore?
I would say there's always a lot of what, not enough why. I always ask the question why. Did not ask the applicants because I was listening to how you delivered that. This is on the high side of the road, and I have seen these fence applications where it's down in the ditch, and basically the variance and sometimes there's safety concerns, but right here on the high side of the road, I just don't understand why. I mean, that's a big ask, And I just feel like it's important to fall closer to the ordinance on this.
If the applicant would like to respond, you're welcome to take the lectern if you will.
We've heard your comments and appreciate them, and I think that we've, kind of all put our heads together to come up with some great solutions. We would be, well, first to address the open air on the fence. It is a 50% open air. Let me see if I can go back to if you can see the picture on the left, on the gate, I'm sorry, not the fence. Just so you, and then the fence is 60, but on the gate, I know that rendering, it does look pretty solid, but it's not. So I just wanted to clarify that. But I think we would be fine going down to a 5-foot stucco wall. I think that's a great, solution that we can kind of meet on the middle, and to keep the architectural details for both properties. So just wanted to add.
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
When we originally replatted this property, we tried to do the estate lot, the 3.0, whatever it is, but we weren't allowed to do that because of the frontage, the minimum frontage that was required. So if we were able to zone it in that, then I don't think we would have these issues with this fence today. So it's essentially the same property if we could have rezoned it with the estate lot.
Very good. And you had a rough go at it. Took you a minute.
It was challenging, yeah.
That's why I'm making sure that we belabor every detail. I don't want it to be that rough on you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll rely on staff a little bit here to kind of correct me if I don't say this correct in the right way. So for 1204, the variance for opacity is not up for variance tonight because it wasn't properly noticed, right?
Right.
As I understand it, the calculation for opacity came from the applicant. So back on a previous slide where those calculations are made, those are the applicant's calculations.
Okay, the 48 feet.
Well, not the 48 feet, but the calculation of opacity. So if you'll, thank you, appreciate it. Sure hope I can find it, hang on. So these calculations at the bottom, as I understand it, and people can feel free to correct me if I'm not understanding this right, but the opacity calculations are made by the applicant. And so none of the opacity calculations meet the 75% variance rules on either property. Am I saying that correct? Yes. Now, on 1204, again, the variance for opacity is not up, really, it can be up for discussion, don't get me wrong, it's just not up for action because it wasn't properly noticed, because our understanding was that opacity was not going to be an issue on 1204. We later learned that it is an issue, and so if council were interested in proving the variance presented tonight, which is on the height of the fence, then, and you were okay with the opacity calculation they've made, we would publicly notice that and bring that other piece, the opacity piece, back at a future council meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that problem does not exist on the 1212 property. Okay. All the variants they've requested on the 1212 property were properly noticed and are up for both discussion and action this evening.
Okay. All right, very good. Makes a lot of sense. I'd still like to know how we measure, not necessarily what the applicant provides our staff. So, but very much understood.
And we're going to get to the bottom of that very question, Mr. Mayor.
And I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time. I get it, right? I get it. But yeah, we want to run our own linear foot measurements and, how are we doing those measurements? And then that way we keep a quality of continuity in our decision making. All right, very good. So we come back to the 7-foot tall stucco wall. The transparency is not up for action this evening. The applicant would have to either fall in alignment with the ordinance for this section or reapply, okay? I will say this, just for a fun joke, if you made them all horizontal and we all drive fast enough, it's 100% transparent. I'm just saying that for all you people out there thinking about doing variances, if you guys could look at that. All right. Okay, just a little comedy. All right, at this time, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion. Nobody wants to jump out there?
Nervous about seeing him at standard service.
All right, guys.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilman Omby?
Mayor, just to double check my recollection, we did do the public hearing for this item,
I did.
correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, just wanted to make
I
sure.
don't mind. I don't mind being right tonight. I did do the public hearing. It's been plenty of times I tried to close this thing out without the public hearing. All right, very good. You have the floor, Councilman Omby.
Yes, I think with the appetite to maybe look at this in its totality again, I think it might just be cleanest. So I move that we deny FV 2026-01.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to deny as stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Horn. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. And I think that's due to complexities of what you all heard tonight, okay? I don't think anybody here in this dais wants to be difficult.
No.
Moving into agenda item 4.b, we're going to hold another public hearing to discuss and act on case number FV 202602 for a resolution granting certain variances to chapter 157.03 fences in agricultural areas, section A, D, and G. Fences of the Heath Code of Ordinance that would allow for 124 feet of 7-foot tall stucco wall with a 1 foot wide by 8 foot long and 8 foot tall decorative black metal I-beam with a planter pass through opening in front of the property located at 1212 Smurl Drive. Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. And once again, now we're leading into the next property, which is a 11.3 acre property. And this one, as was indicated, is a separate item when we have 3 variances that they are actually looking to do. And we've seen these before, so now we understand what's across the street and what's adjacent to them as well. I just want to go right here to the actual request from the applicant. So the variance here would be for a 7-foot wall, a stucco fence wall, which you want to call a stucco fence. Its entirety is 7 foot tall, including the gate. And then keep in mind the gate is okay at 7 foot. But the difference in this is that the entire fence, in this case, would be composed of stucco. And so there's 0% transparency in effect. And so the gate, and when we take a look at the gate, similar to the same one that they showed in 1204, you got 2-inch wide slats and 2-inch open space. So that's a 50% transparency for the gate. But once again, it's a decorative item that they're showing here. They have the plantings all across the entire, based on their perspective, the entire length of the fence has the 4 foot planter walls, and so you'll have the plants associated with there. The difference here, this is set back 100 feet. And so as what was indicated, when you take a look at both of these, you know, is there a commonality and how they want to present their subdivision here? The difference here also is that this sets back 100 feet for the gate. It's an 18-foot wide gate, and this is considered a privacy fence, and with an ag property, an ag property does not allow for a privacy fence. And so that would be the ask in this point. The variances in this case would be for the 7-foot tall privacy fence, also to allow for a maximum 7-foot tall front yard fence, which is essentially the same, and then also allowing for the fence to have zero transparency. I put in there less than 75%, but it is actually 0% transparency in this case. And with that, once again, staff has made the same recommendation as before. Proposed fence does not meet the requirements of the city's fence ordinance. Therefore, it needs to come before the city council in order to make a discretionary decision based on section 15708A of the fence ordinance. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Are there any questions of staff? Council? I think we teased out a lot in that first section. Okay, very good. If there are no questions for staff, council, do you have any questions for the applicant? There's no questions for the applicant at this time. We will hold the public hearing at 7:36. This public hearing is open. Do we have any residents that would like to speak for or against? Going once, twice. At 7:36, this public hearing is now closed. So the chair will open the floor to allow any discussion. Any questions or discussion? Okay. If I may add, and I've done this before, for those of you that were on council at the time, makes it really tough that there are some houses that have built things and gotten away with it. And that's kind of what's happened in some of these examples, that you do not have 75% transparency on every fence that's been built within this ordinance's time that it's been in place. I do think that it would look very beautiful. I do worry about, if you're not the owner of the property, what are we gonna have right there? And I think about, if I own the property right next door, what would that be like? And again, I lean to Councilwoman Horn's point, and I've said this multiple times with the packed house, is that, there's a lot of ordinances in this city that have needed updating. And we've done really great work with the past council, and even with this council, on trying to update some of those ordinances. In fact, our open space ordinance, our anti-monotony ordinance. I mean, we had an anti-monotony, not to beat a dead horse, but just make sure for the record everybody remembers. That anti-monotony ordinance was in 2005, was the last time it was updated. And we had a packed house concerned about monotony. And I had to, unfortunately, sit here at the dais and explain, for every 400 feet since 2005, we have not required there to be an anti-monotony further than 400 feet on the frontage road. And, you got a packed house is trying to say, and I believe that one evening we had 28 people get up there and say, we don't want the same house over and over again. And I kept saying, hey, unfortunately, the ordinance has not been updated, and that is our law. And we are required to abide by the law. And so what we did was, we did work very diligently at the time to update that ordinance. And so I would challenge staff, and I would challenge council at a later date to give some direction, if we feel it necessary to ever update any ordinances, but fence ordinances being one of those things. As we are a premier outdoor lifestyle community, and we have been very blessed, I believe, to have very like-minded people, even though many have different versions of what this community needs to look like. I think all of us know that we have something special, and we were trying to preserve that something special and increase the values of these properties, not the taxes, in case the CAD's listening. Okay. All right, very well. If there are no discussion items, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion. Councilman Obi?
Yeah, I think really excited to see what you guys bring back, because I really want this to get done. I know your vision has got to be just as lovely as the entries, and I know what it's like to anticipate that. So it really is kind of with a heavy heart that we have to be this way, but I move that we deny FV 2026-02.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to deny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second.
Sentiment as well. I second the sentiment.
You second the motion?
And the motion. I also second the motion.
Okay. Good. All right, the motion moves. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving into agenda item 4.c, hold a public hearing, discuss and enact on case number FV 202603 for a resolution granting a variance to chapter 157.03, fences in agricultural areas, section A of the Heath Code of Ordinances, that would allow for an 8-foot tall cedar privacy fence on the property located adjacent to the east and the rear of the property at 1212 Smurl Drive, City of Heath, Rockwall County. Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now this is different from the other two. Let me just say that at the very outset of this. And what the applicant does have, they do have a small, it's just about an acre portion of property that, as you can see on this aerial, is located to some adjacency. It's adjacent to, this is Hillview, some homes here, and this is the Renaissance also right here. And what the applicant is intending to do is to put up fence panels right along the edge of where you see the residential properties. And I've got that in your packet. And so you'll have an 8-foot tall fence here, as well as along here. Now, once again, because this is an ag zone property, it's still considered a privacy fence. And so that's the purpose of this coming before you this evening for a variance to this. However, what the applicant is pointing out and what they're requesting in this is that, you know, they're looking for screening from the residents, okay? And they have farm equipment. They have a bee farm as well that they have, and once again, they want to be able to provide security for those items that are in the back of that property as well. And so this becomes a much different request than the other two. And however, because of that, and because it is still considered a privacy fence, an 8-foot tall privacy fence, staff would obviously move this forward to your discretion in order to be able to review this and to make a decision under section 157.08 of the fence ordinance. With that, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Very well. Council, do you have any questions for staff?
Do we have an idea of what this
Councilman.
looks like? Do we have an idea, David, of what this fence looks like?
I believe a typical fence. I don't know if we've had any construction plans or permits submitted for this at this point.
They did submit a plan. I mean, it's just, they're gonna do it horizontal.
Yep.
Okay, but it's just 8-foot tall privacy fence.
Gotcha.
I mean,
Understood, thank you.
yeah.
Very well.
I
Councilwoman Thurgood?
Question. They have a bee farm, and for certain, like, safety issues, there's nothing in the ordinance that would say, well, we want to keep certain, I mean, it's not an animal, but, you know, like insects within, contained to keep it safe. I don't know, is there anything to be considered within that? I didn't see anything, but is that treated differently?
It's allowed by right. That's what I believe. That's what you're asking. I believe that the applicant is one of the reasons why they want to.
I noticed the same neighbors that objected to the first did not object to this, and so I guess what I'm getting at is it almost seems like it's in the public interest to approve this. But I don't want to just come right out and say that because of the bees. They don't want them in their yard. They want them, and maybe that would help contain them better.
Understood, and I believe that's exactly what the applicant is intending to do. Okay. And we have no opposition to this particular case as well.
Right.
One might have to clip their wings so they can't get over 8 foot, but, you know.
Just have them come visit my small orchard. I like bees. There's not nearly enough of them around this spring, I've noticed in my own backyard. But Thank you. That does add some clarity to this. Thank you.
ma'am.
Very good. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Councilman Dodson, for the levity. I do appreciate it. All right. All right. Are there no questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Can I ask that
Councilwoman
same,
Thurgood,
can I ask that same question to the applicant?
if the applicant would take the lectern.
What was the question? I'm sorry, if you
I
could
would,
repeat.
yeah, I would just love for you to elaborate on on the why.
On the
Why?
why, kind of goes back to the safety. That's actually where our equipment was stolen. And then also just in consideration for the neighbors on Hillview and in the Renaissance, if we do park our tractors right there, if I lived in one of the other properties, I wouldn't want to look at the tractor. So we were trying to make it pleasing to others as well. So
All right.
there's more of the why.
Thank you.
Trying to, put ourselves in their position.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let me see.
All right, very good. Council, any further questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. At this time, we will hold a public hearing at 7:46. This public hearing is in order. Do we have any residents that would like to speak for or against? There are none. Public hearing is closed at 7:47. At this time, the chair will open the floor for more discussion. Councilwoman Horn?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I do see this as a very different case. I think even in the section that the applicant had to fill out where it asked if this will cause an undue hardship, they have already, filed police reports where their property has been stolen. Also, if you look at the diagram of this, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, in the very back of other neighbors' property, shielded from the street, and I do look at this as a very different case, and feel like that we should consider this.
Very good. Thank you, Councilwoman Horn. I was looking at a map just so I could see the property, so thank you, Councilman Mormon. Are there any other discussion, questions, topics?
Yeah, I'd just say this is another good example of you guys being a good neighbor, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion, though.
Well, before we make a motion, if I may challenge, so this is where I essentially I look at this a little bit differently. I don't know that you're really containing bees. I recognize the privacy fence. I recognize in the ordinance that essentially you guys are considering a variance where we really planted a flag and going against our ordinance. You would be doing that in a very dramatic way with a wood fence. And therefore a privacy fence. What are the, Mr. Gonzalez, if I can have you come back to the lectern, what are the preclusions for back of property? Are they allowed to at any point have a wood fence inside of our ordinance as it sits?
So a fence can be any material, and the one thing they can't have, with this being ag property, is a barbed wire fence, because you have residential adjacency.
Okay, but
to
it
that.
calls out, there is nothing in our ordinance, as I'm to understand it, legal, and Mr. Alexander may weigh in, there's nothing in there that allows wood fence. Am I wrong in that statement, Marie?
So, subsection A says no privacy fences shall be permitted. And then when we go to talking about the transparency, it only speaks to the front part of the fence. And so, to answer your question, the ordinance doesn't explicitly allow rear privacy fences, because it says no privacy fences are allowed at all, but there is some distinction in the ordinance between fences along the front build line and then
Very good.
the rest
And
of
it does actually call out, it calls out different fence types. So my question there, with the fence types, do those fall in similar alignment to where we have a building material ordinance, but it actually is not upheld because of the legislature changes in 2024, if I remember correctly?
No.
For building materials of a house, does that encapsulate fences?
No, because those are only building materials for a structure.
Okay,
So the ordinance does talk about, split rail fences are allowed, barbed wire is allowed, but only for livestock. But for the ordinance on the privacy fences, it doesn't say a wood fence is allowed that's 100%, or excuse me, 0% transparent, so a solid wood fence. The ordinance is not that specific.
yeah. And so my concern would be, as I go back to history, I remember an individual that moved here, myself, and I had a wood fence in one neighborhood. I went and built a house. The individual cut down all the trees in the green belt. I asked questions about a privacy fence. I was told no, needed to be a wrought iron fence. And so therefore, I kept all the trees on my property and planted more cedar trees to create a privacy curtain. So hard for me to ever consider a privacy wood fence when that wrought iron ordinance has been in place for a really long time. But I wanted to make sure that that's teased out. So you're saying that the ordinance is not encapsulated in building structure code, so it's not an ordinance that you can't uphold a building material. You're also stating that there is no availability to a privacy fence inside of the ordinance.
That's correct. It says, so, even like around a pool in an agricultural area, based on how the ordinance is written, it does not allow that privacy fence.
Okay. All right. And I too share some concerns about if I was your neighbor looking out the back patio and I have a wrought iron fence, but I'm not sure that I would necessarily want to create a variance, creating precedent. Has nothing to do with your property, has to do with legal precedent on allowing the back of your property to have a wood fence, privacy fence, therefore creating future applicants to then not have to comply, creating complexities into the future. That's my thoughts out loud. Are there any other discussion items? None?
So was the church the only one that responded on this one?
That is correct, yes, sir.
No one from Hillview responded?
No others have responded to that.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Omby?
Yeah, just a comment. I think that the fact that it's L-shaped is, stretching a bit to call it a privacy fence. I think it's more of a screening, but, it's semantics at that point. It's defined as privacy, so that's the way it looks in our ordinance.
Okay.
Just a comment.
Mr. Gonzalez, just so I'm clear, the red line drawing is on two sides. Is this fence going on the north side as well that adjoins or butts up against the church's property?
It is located on that south end and on the east end of the property where we had it outlined.
So only
and that
two
is not-
sides?
Not on the north side.
Was there a reason for that, or is that an applicant question?
That's the applicant submitted that, yes.
Very good. We'll hold that question. Do we have any other questions for staff? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. If we could have the applicant come up one more time, sorry. Councilman Mormon, if you'd repeat your question.
Sorry, yes, Mr. Estes. So what was the reason for the north side? You're not needing a fence, that you just need it on the south and the east?
Yeah, we're doing it more for screening along Hillview and Renaissance. So just that little portion for the neighbors. And I will say, both the Hillview properties do have privacy fences on the side of each.
Yeah.
And there are some at Renaissance, all right in that same area.
And that goes back to why I said this is always tough. That's why I don't want to be the council of fences, because there's a lot of fences that don't necessarily comply.
Yeah, and we're trying to be good neighbors. I mean, we don't, we don't want, to be a nuisance to anybody. We're trying to screen some of the stuff that some people probably don't want to look at. I mean, if we get denied on the fence variance, I mean, we could build a structure, we could build a barn back there. They probably wouldn't want to look at that either. So I think the lesser of the two evils that we decided was just a privacy fence to screen some of the stuff and leave the other portion of it open.
Very good.
I have a question
Councilwoman
for you,
Horn.
sir. You cited as denying this variance, how would it create an undue hardship as a theft? Do you believe that only having two sides of a fence would reduce theft? Are they able to access, are people able to access the property from another angle?
They are, but they have to hike a pretty good ways. So those two property lines butt up closest to a street. And the church is 10 acres, and then you have the other neighborhood that's further away. But those two sides would be the easiest for somebody to come into our property, yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
So the statement there is that it's easier for criminal activity to traverse across Hillview or Renaissance private properties. Is that what you just said? I just want to make sure I was clear.
Yeah, they walked in on foot when they stole all my stuff.
Okay.
They drove my side-by-side out to the creek because they couldn't get into the front.
And that's to the north side? Where's the creek?
It's further up toward Sparrow Drive.
Okay.
And that equipment was parked in that area that you're looking to screen?
It was right on the edge of it, yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Thurgood?
Oh, I mean, if I were to make a comment, I just think that's material and important. I think he's complying with what the neighbors already have. They already have these screened-in fences and made of wood, right? So he's putting something in there that's already in the neighborhood. The neighbors are in agreement, or at least not in disagreement, and one is vocally in agreement. So I think there's a lot to be said for safety of both, theft and for his bees. I just think it makes a lot of sense.
Very good. Since we're making comments, I would tell you, I don't think that your neighbors on Hillview or Renaissance want to look at a fence, a wood cedar fence. I think that they would rather look at trees, with all due respect. So, to me, I don't want to look at a wood fence. I look at trees every day. It's a much prettier sight, and it creates an actual taller curtain for these neighbors. And I would also say, just by looking at Google Street View, at least one of those properties is a chain link fence in the back. So they would be looking at your property, so I understand screening it, but I'm not sure that their view right now is trees, and you'll be replacing that with a 8-foot tall cedar privacy fence. So again, it's tough. It's tough to sit up here and be critical on these items. I'm trying to uphold the law, and the law doesn't fall in their favor, in my opinion. At this time, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 260310C, granting a variance to section 157.03A of the Heath Code of Ordinance to allow the construction of an 8-foot cedar privacy fence adjacent to the rear property line of 1212 Smurl Drive, as presented.
Very well. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Councilman Moorman. I will say that if you're worried about setting precedent, this is a scarier precedent than the other two if you were to approve those. So the motion moves. There are no other discussion items on that. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I have an aye from Omby, aye from Thorogood, aye from Moorman. Those in nay? Nay. A nay from Councilwoman Horn, a nay from Councilman Myers, a nay from Councilman Dotson, and a nay from myself. Therefore, the motion dies. So at this time, the chair will reopen the floor to entertain a motion. I unfortunately, I don't want to deny this, but in its current form, I feel like this is the hardest hill to climb, since our ordinance does not allow this currently, and I worry about the future state of others trying to put in 8-foot privacy cedar fences. Your property is super tucked away. It's a beautiful piece of property. I love your property, but I cannot, in good conscience, approve a cedar fence that would allow precedent. So I make a motion that we deny case number FV 202603. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilwoman Horn. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that on the surface of this, when I first looked at it, I was willing to consider it based on the security situation. When I looked deeper, found out it was only two sides, I decided that, to me, that is not security. And I would encourage you to look at another way to keep your things secure.
Very good. And I would also say it's not necessarily the height, it's the material of a wood fence.
It's technically our panel, metal fence,
Okay?
but it's 0% transparency.
Yeah. Very good. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. We've discussed the item. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Nay.
Hold on. I gotta get a head count. I gotta do this. I gotta make sure I don't mess up. We have to deny Councilwoman Horn,
Yes.
Councilman Myers, Councilman Dodson, did you?
Yes, sir.
And myself. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Councilman Omby, Councilwoman Thorogood, Councilman Myers. It was a close race. Very sorry. I know it's frustrating, and I don't take that for granted. I would encourage you guys
Very frustrating.
I'd encourage you guys to work with Mr. Alexander's staff and see if we can fall in a closer alignment with the city ordinance. But thank you guys very much for all of your patience. All right, at this time, we'll move into agenda item number 5. This is our consent agenda. 5.8, action regarding the minutes of the February 24th, 2026 regular meeting. I believe all of council's had time to review the meeting minutes, so therefore the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including item 5.A, the minutes from the February 24th, 26th regular meeting.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor as stated by Councilwoman Thorogood. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilman Myers. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving into agenda item number 6. These are items for individual consideration. 6.A, discussion and action to approve multiple quotes through TIPS Purchasing Cooperative to authorize boardwalk paving to make street repairs to support the Heath Street Maintenance Program. Mr. Creed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As stated, this is 3 more quotes for our street maintenance program. The roads we're looking at here is there's Eagles Pass and Country Club, Wilford Way and Heathland Crossing and James Drive. All three of these were elevation changes, or identified drainage issues that we had to add on to existing portions of road we were already working on, and we wanted to bring that for the council for approval. This is kind of representative of what we saw. I don't have one for the Heathland Crossing one. It wasn't wet when I got over to take the picture, and it did not prove representative of what we needed to demonstrate. But you can certainly see what we were looking at there on Country Club, where we got these fairly large bird bass that do not drain along these roadways. These are plentiful in town somewhat. But when we can address them, we're already working. You can actually see the panel on that far right picture. We're already working right there on, next to the road. The resident did come out and ask us to address it, that portion there on James. We can see where there already some work had been done and had not been successful in causing that drainage to occur. So we want to go ahead and correct that when we were down there to give them a good street. These three quotes are showed encumbered on the 2026 fiscal year budget to bring us down to a balance of $245,063.79, spending $720,936 out of this current year's budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions associated with these three quotes.
All right, very good. Council, at this time, the floor is open for questions for Mr. Creed. Councilman Mormon?
Mr. Creed, I was just curious on the curb cost for the Eagle Pass. Is there a reason why that one is more than the other two projects? I noticed it's got a higher quantity amount. I was just curious why it was more per unit.
Yes, sir. So we actually have delved into this quite a bit with Boardwalk, and what we've discovered is every one of these is different as when it comes to cutting, the phasing of how it has to be done, and haul out. And so when they factor in those things, those numbers can change for each prospective point of repair. What we would give as an example of that is we had to do a driveway where we were going to do a panel in front of a driveway, and the entire panel would take up the entire portion. We had to split that panel to allow that access. They're going to charge us a little extra for that phasing because it requires more days of work for them to be on site. Rather than being able to just cut that panel out and pour it back in the same motion, if that makes any sense. And so that's what we run into with these variable costs on the phasing and the cutting, and sometimes the depth of the haul out. It matters as well.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm watching this. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
All right, very good. Any other questions for staff? Very good. If there are no further questions for staff, thank you, Mr. Creed. At this time, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the quotes through TIPS Purchasing Cooperative of authorizing Boardwalk Paving to perform street repairs in support of the Heath Street Maintenance Program as presented.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor as stated by Councilwoman Thorogood. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Omby. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving into 6.b, discussion and action regarding repairs on Willow Springs Drive. Mr. Creed.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this one's a little bit unique on our street maintenance program. However, I think it's something that many of you may be familiar with. We have a culvert or a small bridge on Willow Springs Drive that we've had subsidence issues where it continues to sink. Previous engineers have looked at this, and previous staff have looked at this, and we have a pumping or a water issue that's occurring under, so that Willow Springs is an appropriate title for this area. And what we have is, as it's stated here, is we got 7,720 square foot of Willow Springs that has dropped due to the eroded substrate, and that's due to the water. And it's created underground voids from 408 Willow Springs, including the intersection of Pine Island Circle, and then extending to the culvert at 501 Willow Springs. I'll show you what that looks like up on the map in just a second. These substantial voids surrounding the culvert need to be filled and lifting the street back in proper alignment before we can correct the surface issues. We're recommending a company called Creekworks LLC for the scope of work for $99,813.90. And this is the scope that they intend to do. This would be removing the hull off of all the asphalt patches. And what that refers to is, as Willow Springs is fell, there's a sewer line that runs through down that street. And the compaction when they laid the sewer line seems to be holding up very well compared to the surrounding street around it. Now, you have some linear tension because you have a sewer line that's running down through there. It's helping support that. But so what's happening is, so the manhole in the middle of the road is not sinking, and the road is sinking around it. So when you go down Willow Springs, you see this black asphalt hump we've continued to build up to match the manhole, because it looks like the manhole is rising out of the street, when in fact the street is sinking around the manhole. So what we intend to do is try to support that street back up. The asphalt will have to come off as that street elevates back around that manhole area. We will also, what we have to do is we have as that culvert inside where you do the crossing, you can see water coming in from around that culvert. We intend to seal all that and stop that erosion from happening from that water pumping through there or running through there. And they quote what they intend to use for their joint sealant there. And also the mud jacking with 800 PSI soil cement substrate over the entire 7,723 square feet of street. You can see from this here, this is the area that intends to be lifted and secured with the concrete. And that refers to those addresses, I think it's 408 and down to 501. This here is a picture that shows you where water is coming down the road, and with substantial amount of water running from the property, and what that causes is each rain event. The water is entering the substrate to break at the edge of the concrete, and it's building beneath the street and pouring into the culvert that is the Willow Springs Bridge, essentially. We intend to seal all that. On the bottom picture, you can see the asphalt that will be removed, and the hole beneath the surface will be filled prior to replacing the concrete. Here you can see the actual culvert. You can see the inflow coming into the side of the culvert where this water is traversing under the road and then entering the culvert. That is demonstrable what can cause your subsidence, because it's not just water. It's taking your soil and your subbase with you as it flows, and then the concrete settles and settles and settles around it. So before we could address any of the surface issues on Willow Springs, it doesn't make sense until you address this problem, because anything you do above it is just going to continue to fall. So this is why we've chosen to go this route, to try to secure everything under it and then come back and do the surface items. You can see the inlet here where we have the sinking and the separating here. You can especially see it on the picture on the right as it is sunk. I think the pictures there were prior to the asphalt being put into place to try to patch up some of the existing surface issues that we're having. But you can certainly demonstrate how much that has sank as the water continues to traverse below it. These are the surface conditions that are below the asphalt. You can see the giant asphalt on the top, where we'll continue to overlay that to try to bring the elevation up where the drivability is still correct. However, the pictures on the left is what you will see underneath that asphalt. So it will be a surface condition we will have to address after we raise the road back into the proper alignment.
And this fix does not address that, or it does?
It does.
Okay.
No, it will not address all the surface conditions. We'll have to come back and correct those.
So just making sure.
Correct. No, you're correct.
Everybody's clear on that.
Yeah, I want to be clear. That's exactly right. This fix will address the subsurface conditions so that we can address the surface conditions. We have addressed, or Heath has, it was prior to my time, has went in there and cut out concrete panels and replaced those panels and brought them to elevation. They sank right back down, so they never addressed the water inundation problem they had below the surface. So when you see those asphalt patches raising it back up on the cracked areas, even the new areas of asphalt or concrete that have been replaced by previous staff members in the city of Heath have sank significantly. It causes surface drainage issues as well as the subsidence issues you see underneath going into the culvert. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. Again, this would come out of our annual street maintenance. It would bring our total up to $820,750.11 and our fund balance down to $145,249.
And that 145 is unencumbered?
It is unencumbered, yes, sir.
And do you have an estimate on what once you raise it to actually repair those panels, do you have an estimate on what that would be?
I do. I have two estimates right now. One is in the $79,000 range. Another one was a little broader scope. It was trying to address some of the sidewalks as well, and it went up to $112,000.
Okay. And then as you look at, because we do have multiple bridge considerations, I want to say. Would you say that this bridge is in the amount of disrepair that you have on Key Drive?
Oh, that's a trick question, a little bit, sir, and I'll explain why.
It was meant to be.
Well, and I'll explain why. So Key Drive does have problems. It's not necessarily strictly on the bridge, but so if I take that out of it, Key Drive needs more work than Willow Springs does, and it seems more pressing than Willow Springs does. But the failures on Key Drive are not in the road. They're on the outfalls of the bridge, if that makes any sense. So any work that we're going to bring toward, which we're working on that, we're going to bring forward some things on Key Drive for you guys, but it's got to do with scouring of the intake side of the wing wall where it comes into the box culvert that runs under the road, and then the concrete wall as it exits, adjoining the nearest property there. I guess that would be to the east.
And we don't have a full scope on all the work that needs to be done on that one yet, and particularly the probable cost of doing all that work.
Sure, and you're leaning towards right pocket, left pocket. This is a street maintenance item to teed up fairly quickly.
Sure.
It gets your B plan in place while you're working on your A plan, and your A plan may be more of a CIP.
That's right. And now if council would prefer that we pause for a moment and not pursue this piece, bring back Key Drive with Willow Springs, we can do that, and we can kind of weigh with you as a group as to which one you would prefer to see us work on first. But yeah, I do think the cost of Key is going to be quite a bit more than what we're looking at here on Willow Springs.
Okay.
Agreed.
My number one concern is never trapping a resident in their property. So if Key Drive is at a higher concern rate, my question would be is how long would it take you to look into that?
So we've commissioned FMI to do that currently.
So that's
They're doing
correct.
that right
So,
now.
okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And so, council, I think that as we, sometimes we talk about speed to market, get things done as quickly as possible. The one concern I have with that approach is exactly in scenarios like this. I agree. I've heard about Willow Springs and the concern of Willow Springs, and I would love to say absolutely, let's get this thing done, but we also need to be mindful of, what we have in resources and making sure that we're tackling the biggest concerns. But I do know that residents have a similar concern in Willow Springs, so, okay. Is there more to your presentation?
There is not, other than we did run this by the city engineer. They concurred that this was worth a try.
Yeah, it's a lot less expensive than the
Correct.
numbers that I heard.
Correct, then if
2
it was
years
to
ago.
go to the failure, then we're talking about millions.
Yeah,
So.
Which is, Meadowview or
It
Meadowcrest
is.
didn't
Meadowview
cost us as much
Yeah.
as we originally thought, but
Right.
because it failed was a problem. So anyways, real quick. So my comment though is I wouldn't really deter any of us from trying to move money A and money B.
Sure.
I would just say that, hey, guys, we gotta make sure that Willow Spring and Key Drive, and there's a third bridge, need to become a
Ridgemont,
private.
yes, sir.
What's that?
Ridgemont.
Yeah, Ridgemont, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's coming too.
So all three of those bridges need to be addressed, and we probably need to allocate everything we got to getting those fixed. But Councilwoman Thurgood?
And then my question would be, I guess, did you present that consideration to the city engineer with regards to not addressing this and having a catastrophic failure? Like, what is that risk ratio we're looking at?
I did not request any kind of a ratio or have him estimate when it might fail or whether it might fail imminently. It has absolutely fallen inches since I've been here. We've had to overlay it twice to get the rideability back as it appears that manhole is climbing out of the ground. And although it's the entire road sinking around it.
And he's happy to charge you for that analysis.
But we can certainly go back and do that and try to get an opinion if that is the council's wish, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that it will be a catastrophic failure, given that it's got active deficiencies that are worsening with every rain we get. That's accurate to say?
It does. And how this, I mean, we obviously knew about Willow Springs and the substance that was occurring, but how this came about is as we're doing our PCI, we're going around, we're looking at it. Obviously, Willow Springs shows all that entire area on the thing. So when staff goes out, they look at that and they were like, oh, man, what do we do here? And at first it was, well, we'll just replace all these concrete panels. And immediately I was like, well, we got to, that's a bad idea. We're going to spend a bunch of money on surface concrete that's, $79,000 to $112,000 for it just to sink again.
Potentially, doesn't the asphalt even add the weight and therefore constrict the culvert further and further
So water
expedite the damage of it?
Water pumping's the enemy. Any surface weight or heavy truck, trash truck, fire truck, anything like that causes pumping is going to move sediment as well as the water and exacerbate that problem where you have those voids it speaks of underneath your concrete or your tension.
All right, Councilman Omby.
So we don't have a real complete grasp on the cost, but what are the odds that it's going to end up a CIP instead of under annual road maintenance?
As it was described to me by the city engineer, it sounded more like a CIP than it did some repair work.
And it's more about stormwater drainage than it is about street repair. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And Mr. Creed, does this fall at the top of your list as we move down the projects that we've identified for annual street repair?
So one of the priorities when we're looking at a PCI and we're doing the scoring is our ability to address the problem, right? We can identify Larry Drive as a problem, but the cost is the CIP level. Well, Willow Springs, we believe we've identified a solution that is within the street maintenance bubble price-wise and adds value to the city, especially if we don't have to have a CIP because this process works.
Very well said. Councilwoman Horn.
Can I ask a question? Typically, and I'm not sure how you do this, so just tell me, but this company, have you used them before? What was your basis of choosing them? Were there multiple bids put in? I didn't see that in the packet.
Yeah, so how we quoted this was we asked the concrete companies, including this one, CreteWorks is as well, for solutions to this area. The solutions that your traditional concrete companies came back with was we'll dig everything up and replace everything with more concrete. And those prices were much larger and seemed not to address the core issue of stopping the water flow and sealing those culverts. In answer to your have I ever used them, yes. Okay. So in Sunnyvale, we have a very large road called Clay Road that goes along the industrial corridor down there where Dow Tile and FedEx and all these heavy trucks were always running. We had the same sort of issue where Clay Road was built on a real wet area, what used to be a pond and kind of a marshy area. And so we always had pumping. What would I mean by that? When you see trucks going out there, you see water squirting up through the cracks of the concrete. Well, that was very detrimental, caused that road to really sink and caused a lot of problems, especially when you had those heavy trucks up and down it every day, all day. I contracted with a company that used more of a polymer lift to try to lift that road. Well, the polymer would dry very quickly. And so we would end up with, if you're trying to lift a square portion of the road, they inject the polymer here, the polymer would set up, and it would lift the panel, but it would cause voids. And I learned a lesson because it completely broke everywhere around except where you could see where I'd lifted it with the polymer. So we replaced those panels, but on the subsequent panels, I hired this company, and actually David Jennings is here from Creekworks, and he'd be happy to answer any questions, I suspect. I bet he's thrilled to hear me say that. Those panels survived very well and still look great today because it was more of a robust concrete solution that did not leave voids and dry too quickly. So I have had success using this company, and like I said, I'll let him speak for himself if that is what you would like.
All right, very good.
I got one question for
Councilman
Mr. Creed. When you said, you spoke about sealing the culverts, were you talking about the entry to the boxes, or are you talking about the actual pipe? Because there's a pink arrow right there. Are you talking about sealing the internal piece of the pipe?
Yes, sir.
Or are you talking about the throat of the inlets, or both?
No, I think they're talking about sealing inside the actual pipe. I mean, here it speaks about using a Creekworks CW301, which is hydraulically injected 800 PSI soil cement substrate. I don't want to speak like I have a lot of knowledge on that. I have seen when we do manhole rehabs, when we do the injection behind that and seal off those. I know you've probably seen that where you, and then, you know, you do spin casting and all that. But I suspect, and Mr. Jennings, if you'd like to come up, you can speak better to this. I suspect it's going to be very similar to sealing the I&I out of a manhole type situation.
So if I understood the questions, yeah, inside here, we would seal up the joint where the water's coming in. But if you go back, can you go back?
Sure.
One? Okay, so right here, the second arrow up from the bottom shows where the water, so that up at the top, you see where water was leaking off of a property. And it was running down, so one shot is from one direction and the bottom picture's from the other direction. But the water's coming in and then it's going down through the top. So we would actually be sealing the top where the water's getting in, but also sealing up the inside of the pipe so that as we inject the 800 PSI soil cement, it'll actually lift. It's like airing up a tire. But you've got to seal up both leaks on both sides in order to air up the tire. But it would hold. We've done this all over the place. We've actually treated this same process at all the Penske truck leasing facilities here in the DFW area. We did that in 2019, 2020, and 21. We haven't had a lot of work since because they haven't needed us since.
So you said the leakage is around the box? On that
yes, it's actually, so one of your pictures actually shows.
Yeah, the inlet, right
there. Okay, so the pictures on the pictures on the left were before. If you can see, the front part of that box actually has dropped down, and the water is running in. So this water that we saw is running in a good-sized joint there. So we would not only be repairing inside, but up here, we would put our product, it's an 11,000 PSI product that bonds to concrete better than concrete bonds to concrete.
Is that the Crack Master 3000?
It's CW301.
It's close.
But it's a polymer product. But we would actually build that back and join those two pieces of concrete back together again.
So, I have a question. Okay. So this is a permanent, it's not just a fix, it's like good as new. Is that accurate?
Okay, so.
Well, there's two different statements there. There's
Okay.
permanent and then there's good as new.
How good is this?
It's never going to be as good as new, and there's nothing permanent in anything that sits on our clay soil. So I'm just going to help you out there.
Okay. So, but I can say this. So we've done work for Brian in the past, but normally I'll just tell you, my company does a lot of industrial. So the facilities that he's talking about, for instance, down Clay Road, we do a bunch of work for Dow Tile. We work at their headquarters, facilities and whatnot. And there are areas like this where we will do a temporary fix. And the temporary fix has been holding for 7 years.
Yeah, that's,
So I'm just saying, it's not like the asphalt patch that you see in the road.
right. So is that how long you think it will last, 7 years, or are these?
Or
fixes?
longer. I mean, you're talking about the side, we're putting an 800 PSI soil cement below it. So you're stabilizing what's underneath. And then we're repairing up above, so, correct. I mean, the chances of that breaking down are not near what
Right.
they are right now.
So what I'm gauging here is that this has every possibility of saving it from ever having a catastrophic failure.
Correct. It's gonna go around that pipe. So if you imagine where you saw the water coming in that pipe, it's coming in at the middle of
Right.
the pipe. That means that's a void.
Oh, yeah.
Underneath that concrete, it goes all the way down to there. So we're gonna be filling that entire area back up with 800 PSI soil cement. It's gonna set up very hard.
And can you speak to putting this off? Like, is it such a small, no big thing? Can anyone gauge the risk right now of putting it off and not addressing it right now?
I don't know that anybody's gonna be able to give you a risk analysis based upon
really-
that,
I
right?
mean,
So
Their
ultimately,
opinion is good.
I can't, it's not gonna get better.
okay,
It's only gonna get worse.
thank you,
We
Mr.
took pictures of this area almost 2 years
And that's
ago.
certified right there. It's only
All right,
gonna get
guys,
worse.
for the sake of time, do we have any further questions?
I got one question.
Councilman Myers?
I'm not opposed to, let's, try to fix this. Again, we need to prioritize what we need to do. But the one thing I would like to see, because in here, like you're talking about that sewer line. That sewer line's there, but then the street keeps moving. I think we need to have cameras, like it says in here, to inspect everything before we move forward. Because I don't wanna come in here and then you go out here, we approve this, and we come in there and, then we gotta do this sewer line too.
Yeah, we have cambered the sewer line, it is intact.
Okay, it is?
Yes, sir.
You are good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was just reading in here that
No,
you
we
were gonna do
were
that.
concerned about that too.
So you've already done the sewer line?
We have, it's part of our CMOM, we camera.
Everything's good?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, very good.
But right now, we do not know the quantity of mud that would, or the square yardage. Obviously, there was a note for the 800 PSI, but we do not know what kind of voids we have.
Yeah, it's however much it takes.
Yeah, so you just,
Right, if it takes more trucks, we're not adding the price, we're not adding to the price.
and then the other thing is, what discovery leads us to make the assumption that we do have voids? I mean, obviously, it's apparent that we can see cracking and we can see that, but what discovery work has been done to make the assumption that we have voids, therefore you need to pump?
Well, I would say that the roads are settling into those voids. That's why the road is sinking. As it's continuing to wash the subgrade out, this concrete settles.
So the assumption based on that is that we have voids because it's settling, therefore
And
it
beyond
needs.
that, we need to lift the road, which is also part of the scope of this, back to its original elevation.
Very good. Any further questions for staff?
I'm good.
Very good. Thank you, sir. If there's no further questions, thank you, Mr. Creed. The chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion. I motion that we approve the proposed quote totaling $99,813.90 to fix Willow Springs Drive.
Very, very good. We have a motion on the floor as stated. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Councilwoman Thorogood. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Councilman Mormon. The motion passes. Moving into agenda item 6.c, discussion and action on an administrative services agreement between the City of Heath and the Heath Economic Development Corporation. This is our HEDC, and the Heath Municipal Benefits Corporation, HMBC. Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. This item is basically what it says, is an administrative agreement between the city and the HEDC and HMBC, basically memorializing the services that the city already provides to the corporations, as well as incorporating into the agreement us, the city, bringing on a full-time employee for park maintenance or grounds maintenance, as well as a full-time economic development director. Speaking with the attorney for the EDC as well as our city attorney's office, they advised that we go ahead and memorialize all of this into a singular administrative services agreement that we took, that they helped put together, then we took to the EDC and the NBC. After some discussion, they approved their chairperson moving forward with finalizing and executing the agreement. The next step is for us to bring it to City Council, answer any questions you might have regarding this, and then seeking your approval as well. But basically what this outlines, again, is a scope of work that the city provides and values that scope of work at the cost of what it would take for us to hire those 2 full-time positions. And that's the extent of the agreement. To the extent we need to change it in the future, we can take it back to the 2 boards and to the City Council for amendment.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. So council, essentially, we're just memorializing something in which we've all already approved in writing between the 2 parties. HEDC and HMBC is very much in favor of doing this, and it's been vetted within that board. So at this time, the chair will open the floor to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the administrative services agreement.
And we have a motion on the floor by Councilman Omby for the approval of the administrative services agreement between the City of Heath and HEDC and HMBC. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Councilman Dodson. The motion moves. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving into agenda item 6.d, discussion on possible amendments to the City of Heath's Master Thoroughfare Plan. Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. As we have of late been focused on some transportation issues within our community, in particular working with the infrastructure consortium with the county. Questions have arose with regard, in particular, with regards to the alignment between, or the connector between FM 740 and FM 550. Speaking with the mayor and then also with county judge and our Commissioner Leckie, we discussed bringing this to you for a little bit of discussion with regards to, do we want to go through a process of amending or taking a look at and considering amendments to the Master Thoroughfare Plan, in particular, that particular connector. So with that, I'd like to get some direction from the City Council as to how you'd like to proceed with this. One of the things that has been contemplated is having the subcommittee for transportation of the City Council take a look at this and study this and bring some recommendations back to the City Council.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. With much conversation with Commissioner and Judge New, essentially, as we've prioritized some of our TxDOT roads, the idea is working in with the county on what is within their scope of their bonding and making sure that they're teeing up projects as they work hand in hand with TxDOT. And so FM 740 was the primary piece of topic as Kaufman County is planning on, and they've worked with TxDOT to improve 740 up to the city limits. And so what we've now also stated is that the City of Heath, this is one of 3 of our primary goals for the city in addressing 549, 740, as well as Horizon Road. And so as we talk about 740, the one thing that came up was, okay, so as they go to expand this thoroughfare, what we're tasked with is going back to our thoroughfare plan. And so as we pulled up our thoroughfare plan and having these dialogues with the county commissioner and the county judge, we start looking at our master thoroughfare plan. And if you notice, There are two dotted lines. One is a black dotted line. If you look at the black line of existing proposed roadway is your 740 that comes up. And then there's a black dotted line that does an interconnect. Let's call it through the King property or therefore someone's property there. And the corridor would then connect to 550. Which is the red line. Does everybody follow? And then there's also a secondary where it shows a red dotted line that then connects over to McDonald Road. So as you think about Stoneleigh Phase 3, there was, when that Phase 3 was developed, you will see a 4-lane road, essentially, that dead ends in between McDonald Road and dead ends at the creek, in between two houses, residential properties. And so that was believed to be, at that time, someone's preparation to making that connector to 740. And I apologize to any residents, any historians if I mess this up, but ultimately, the neighborhood, Stoneleigh neighborhood in Phase 1 and Phase 2, once they realized that this was redrawn, they really did not want to see that and was not in favor of doing that. And I have seen documented communications. However, I think both of these are in question. So my next question when meeting with county commissioner and meeting with the county judge is what's the documentation that we have? When this thoroughfare plan was adopted, was it adopted through voting by the city council, or was this simply something added to a map on the thoroughfare plan with no real plan in writing? And maybe there were emails. Mr. Alexander, could you speak to that?
Yeah, the master thoroughfare plan presented here was acted on by the city council. When we did some research to try to identify comments made at those meetings regarding these alignments, we were unable to locate, and Norman may need to speak to this as well, but we were unable to locate any, at least dialogue in the minutes with regards to these alignments. But the plan itself, the way I understand it, was presented to the city council and approved back in 2020. So.
Okay. Very good. Ms. Duncan, do you have anything to add?
No, I looked hard. We found nothing in the minutes, and I did the minutes back then, so.
Okay. And we did have some town halls that must not be documented.
I didn't know about the town hall, but I saw a work session.
Okay.
That there was a little bit of discussion in there. I need to find the audio to go back and read and listen to that.
Mr. Romero, I've got a question.
Councilman Dodson?
So, Steve, when you say the plan was accepted, which version of these dotted lines were accepted as the master thoroughfare plan? Or were all of the dotted lines included with the solid lines that we see in this plan?
Yes, sir. This is an excerpt out of the master thoroughfare plan that was approved.
Gotcha. So all of the permutations of the lines were included in that?
This is what I found to be presented to the city council.
Gotcha. Thank you, Steve.
And what we're lacking, I think, and please feel free to correct me, is there really wasn't a plan A, plan B, plan C. It looks like it was more along the lines of, hey, here's the current 740, and hey, if there were a new connector, this would be a major collector M, and this would be a major collector C.
Yeah.
But no real direction, not that I've been able to see. Again, feel free to correct me, anyone. I've been in office for 2 years, and I just recall some town halls, but I don't believe I was in attendance as a resident. And so I'm not sure that there's any direction, and this goes back to what we talked about with fence ordinances, and we've talked about with PDs and with secondary ordinances that we've addressed prior council and this council, is I'm not sure that we have any direction on what this is really telling us to try to focus on.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see any permutation up here that takes the curves out of 740, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir.
Can we?
Mr. Mayor, I stand corrected. This was approved, this map was approved on July 23rd, 2019.
2019, very well.
Is there,
Councilwoman Thurgood?
I guess, is there any color to put on 740? And like Mr. Dodson mentioned, taking the curves out of it, I mean, it's a good thought, but I don't know that I've ever seen anything that has ever, I guess, considered that. I've never seen a plan consider taking some of those curves out of 740. Is that correct? Is there no plan to ever do that?
Since I have been here, I've heard people have spoken about that, and the right-of-way acquisition that would have to occur to get that to happen. But I have not seen a map such as this or any part, that's not obviously not on our master thoroughfare plan. So, but again, certainly something council can discuss and determine if they want to make amendments. There is an amendment process for the master thoroughfare plan to go through, and certainly could consider that as well.
Very well. I would concur that ultimately these are roadways with some semblance of an idea of what we could be doing, but no direction on what we need to be doing. So therefore, we need to readdress this, and this goes back to that subcommittee and getting to work on our thoroughfare plan. So our thoroughfare plan needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed fairly quickly. I would also, though, caution, as I sit in this seat, when you talk about straightening out curves, you are talking about condemnation.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that my stance on condemnation is a hard pass. And I've made that clear to the commissioner, I've made that clear to the county judge. You know, I worry about those curves, I do. In fact, if you talk about safety within the city, those curves on 740 are at or similar level of safety concerns as we all have with McDonald, Rabbit Ridge, and 550. And we've requested a light that took almost 2 years and a whole lot of letters, and finally somebody with a badge and a whole lot of letters behind his name finally got somebody to listen at TxDOT. And we're very excited that at some point in the near future, within the next 18 months, we'll have a light there. So I would be mindful of that as we review this on the council, but I would encourage and not want to stifle the ingenuity and intelligence of the subcommittee in working on this. I would also state that that as you look through cut-throughs, I will tell you that we need to be very mindful of charting a path forward for the cut-through very quickly. These are things that need to happen in the next 60 days. This is a now problem, or better yet, a now opportunity, because 740 is being looked at. The county is saying, hey, we hear you, we'll make this a priority. As it currently sits, we can approach TxDOT and create a four-lane road that is currently a 2-lane from Linda Lyon all the way up to Hubbard Drive intersection. I know that some might have an appetite for a cut-through to 550. I know some may even have an appetite, I would say good luck, to a cut-through to McDonald Road. So that subcommittee needs to take those considerations. It'll come back to the council with your recommendations, and the council will be able to deliberate on that, but expect a packed house if you consider a cut-through. And I'm just saying that loud and clear, that the community within Stoneley and then within the Ridge community, those two communities, as I'm to understand it, and this is from people that have approached me knowing that this is going to end up on the agenda tonight, as well as individuals that I am told historically they do not want to see a cut-through on these roads. So just putting it out there, making sure that on the record everybody understands that there are a lot of concern about us creating those cut-throughs. And we're not even addressing, if you try to straighten out 740 to the south part of that corridor towards Linda Lyon, taking out those curves, although it would be ideal for safety, please also keep in mind that you may have to make a decision on condemnation. And that also is a thing to expect, that you're gonna have people sitting in the audience that are gonna have a negative reaction to that. And again, I'm not trying to sway any way of thinking. I'm trying to make sure that every elected official sitting here on this dais understands that we're here to represent the entire community today, as well as the community into the future, and think ahead. So these are very, very tough decisions when you start thinking about roads and the management of roads and the improvement of roads. And 740 is very much on our doorstep, but will not be done while you're sitting at this dais. So you will be making a decision, but you will not be sitting here whenever that road is actually done. So.
I think in order, Mr. Mayor, to have a fully vetted process, you need to have all the options on the table.
I agree.
Much like they're looking at with the outer loop, wherever that may end up in the next 50 years. We should also look at these things, exercising diligence in looking at all items, understanding that some items will have more societal, and in this case, individual impact than others. So we are also trying to make decisions for the future state of Heath and the future state of our community. And not just those that are here today, understanding that there are puts and takes in all of that.
Agreed. Very well said. As we all go back and forth on fences, I would agree with everything you just said about roads. Are there any other discussion items? Ultimately, the point of tonight's topic is, let's bring it up, let's talk about it, let's know that it's in front of us. Let's be very clear that we have a very short timetable. That means that the subcommittee is going to have to start doing some special sessions. They're not really special sessions, this is just what I call them, because there's no quorum. But you guys are going to have to start meeting about this very quickly to try to tee up a recommendation to this council, and then we're going to go on public notice for that exchange. If you, one sec, Councilman Ownby, you've raised your hand twice, I apologize. Go ahead.
3, actually. It's okay. I would just add some further color, and I don't know if this accelerates our timetable or if it delays it, but the county is in the process of starting up their thoroughfare plan. Our first meeting is later this week, so.
Yeah. And two, that's why I'm bringing this up, is because of, it's all moving forward right now.
Yeah, it would seem if we want input in that we would have to have some answers before they got.
We gotta know if we wanna, if we're gonna try to get a cut through, there's a lot more steps that come into play. And keep in mind too, that there may be new elected officials that sit here at some point and kill whatever it is that we might be discussing. That's just the way this all works. So, Councilwoman Thurgood.
Well, we have been discussing this at our traffic committee meeting, and we are continuing to do so. And Lauren Lichty has requested to join us in these subcommittees, so he'll be at our next one. I would like some feedback from the other council members who are not a part of that committee to speak on what they would like the master thoroughfare plan to look like.
Okay, very good. Council, do you have any additional thoughts for the chairwoman of that subcommittee? You are the chairwoman.
I am the chairwoman.
Just double check. Any other thoughts, Councilman? None at this time?
Not tonight.
Okay.
Want to digest it, want to think about it? Okay?
I am on the committee, which you didn't ask, but.
Yeah, she said she didn't want to hear from you, man.
She'll hear
She
from me.
runs a tough shop on that subcommittee.
I would just say another really big backdrop is the town hall center and how that's going to progress and the pedestrian traffic that's there. So I think that's the other really large, it's a little farther out than 740, but we don't need to not keep that in mind as we go forward on the thoroughfare plan.
Yeah, and I'll state, just for the record too, when we look at this, and two, it doesn't have to be those lines, it can be a different line. It just we need to update it, and we've got an amendment capability of doing so. We need to get rolling on that because of the timetable that's needed. So even as you look at, kind of, I keep calling them like Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and they're all on the same level, because there's no real direction, unless, again, for the record, I don't know. No one's been able to pull any of those records. But I would caution, as I've already cautioned, being a representative of the people, and also at the same time, it is very difficult to plan ahead and think ahead and try to make sure that you're diverting traffic or moving traffic in a certain flow. I'm going to give you two things, and you'll really leave this point of topic going, where did he land on that? One is, you're going to divert traffic away from your economic center, which is your town center overlay district. And you're going to push them to the east of what that town center is. I don't know that that's a good idea. I think that, ultimately, we sit here today, we're looking at a town center overlay district. They created a design. This district has been in place for a number of years, and EDC is now taking down this land to protect our open spaces and protect us from state legislature from allowing, this arbitrary rezoning to let it be anything. So now it's under our control, and we're also staring down the barrel of promises by some state-level officials that are basically saying, hey, we're going to do away with property taxes or minimize property taxes, in which the state actually doesn't collect property taxes. So therefore, what are they saying? They're saying property taxes need to be minimized for the ISD, the county, and the cities. And so we're staring down that need to create this economic center, and if you divert that traffic, I'm not a traffic expert, I don't know what that does. But I would also play on the other side and say, if you do want a town center and you do want a lot of walkability between your town center park and your town square, this traffic flow from 740 is fairly dramatic. We talk about this being a rural community. Well, I assure you not. Sit here at 8 to 9 a.m., sit here from 3 to 5 p.m. Don't feel very rural from the traffic backup that I literally see every day, and watch people zooming through behind Amy Parks to go around this. Now, does a 4-lane connector at this intersection help that, give it reprieve? I don't know. So, you saw how I did that. I don't know my opinions, where they'll land, but I want us to be very thoughtful, and we need to be thoughtful in a very time crunch, in a short time crunch.
So again, anybody else have?
Any other statements?
Mr. Mayor, do we know, is there still a placeholder in the county budget or the TxDOT budget with funds that were codified with the Trip 21 bond?
That is this 740.
That's what I'm asking.
As it currently sits.
Right.
That's why this one's so important.
So that's the criticality, just for everybody sitting here and in the audience, is that there is money and an expectation available should we choose to exercise that option for some type of improvement to 740, whatever this committee and then this group here comes up with. So it's not like we would be starting flat-footed. There is some expectation and bond money set aside in the Trip 21 bonds that are currently being pulled from for 549 and Horizon and other things within the city of Heath.
Yeah,
So-
very much so.
I'm sorry, thinking more on this, I really believe that this is something that we need to ask the residents. I mean, I feel strongly that I represent them, and I know y'all feel the same way, and that we need to hear what their opinions are. And Mr. Mayor, you laid out some interesting questions. Do we want traffic, coming right through our town center? Maybe we don't, but if we divert it away, what happens? I feel like we need to do some sort of survey, some sort of town hall where we hear from the residents on how they see this coming out. Because like I said, I feel strongly I represent them.
Yeah, my recommendation there, and I think it's a great request, is that we all have access to the residents and we have a way to communicate with them. I believe it's the responsibility of each council member to do their material due diligence on what the residents want. The town hall will happen whenever it lands on the agenda from the recommendation of the subcommittee.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna hear feedback, but the timetable that we're under, this is about this elected body going and getting whatever due diligence you need to do, and then the committee working and doing the same, however you see fit, and then making that recommendation back to this body. And trust me, once it lands on an agenda, and if you know, whatever the recommendation is, you're gonna hear from the community at that time for sure.
Absolutely. On that note, to all the residents listening,
All two of you.
all two of you, contact us. Let us know what you want. If we want to hear from you.
I agree, great. And maybe there might be 14 of you. We did have 14 one night, I was pretty excited. Thought we're going viral. Councilman Omby.
Yeah, I would also really think that, I mean, you said it perfectly, you're not a traffic expert. Well, even in the subcommittee, believe it or not, we're not traffic experts either. I know that the county has secured a firm to help with that. And that's sort of where I was headed with this mentally. I don't know how that fits into our time frame, but.
It doesn't fit. I mean, ultimately, they're saying, hey, if you want 740, we have this teed up as 740 as it currently sits, and we can make that a priority within this TRIP 21 bond, because there's money set aside, but it's for engineering. It's not for road remediation. It's not gonna redo your road. So essentially, and I know I'm telling you everything you already know, because we sit across the table at those county meetings. But ultimately, the county's saying, hey, we need to know, because if you want this money that's already set up for 740, we can put this to work, and as it sits, we only know of 4 lanes because of the 2 lanes that already exist, and that's where we're headed. If you want to cut through, we need to know that now, because that needs to be in our planning, and that money that we're set aside for, you know, environmental, engineering, all those things you have to do for roads, we can allocate that for you guys and get to work on it, but we need to know exactly where you want the road. 7 years from now, you may get a TxDOT road because you're gonna get picked, but it's, you know, if you're lucky, you may bump up sooner than that if there's a project that is not teed up and ready and your 740 project is teed up and ready. So it could happen in 5 years, depending on how complex this is. I can tell you, you're gonna increase your odds in timing, as I'm to understand it. You're gonna increase your odds of getting that 740 done faster if it stays where it's at. Once you start moving it and creating a new corridor connector in its current state, it may slow that down. Is that correct in that statement? Councilman Omby or Councilman Dotson, both of you guys?
I believe that to be
sit across the
accurate,
table.
yeah.
Pretty accurate.
Okay.
So the decision is, as I see it, will we have a walkable downtown corridor? Or will we have, you know, carriage rides, and will we have that kind of small town feel in our downtown area or not?
It depends on who you ask. Because I can tell you, I've had that same question, because I've had the same, like, you know, what are you creating by creating a solution? Are you creating a new problem, right? And that's been my question. One of the things that was said to me was, well, the GPS, if this is a harder corridor to get through and 80 gets increased in size, then they're most likely not gonna, at some point, not come through Heath, that are trying to traverse to get up 30, because 80 is a bottleneck. Again, I already know everybody's opinion, because I'm well-versed in debating this, because I don't like that comment either, but I do want to make sure that I represent, that was an engineer's comment that works at TxDOT, not a past councilman or a past mayor. But I do have a tough time with that one, because I've been hearing that one from past elected officials, and now we got gridlock within our own street, so.
Yes,
Fair?
we do.
I can represent both sides.
We definitely have.
My encouragement to the subcommittee on this is that although we're under a time crunch, let's not sacrifice the key things that we need to do in terms of the studies particularly the impact study necessary to understand what this flow of traffic is gonna look like for the long term. Because it takes this group, a little bit of time, a little bit of time to make a decision that, not this subcommittee, but the county and TxDOT, everything else, before they can really spin projects up. And nothing can be spun up until your environmental impact is done and your utilities are offset and everything else, and that takes years and years and years to do, particularly when you have right-of-ways that we would be dealing with throughout this whole stretch. So, you know, let's not, you know, measure once, cut once, let's measure twice and cut once on this thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm giving both sides of the complexity of what we're trying to solve.
Agreed.
You know?
Okay.
Okay, very good. If we're good with that, I think we've gotten some good direction. We know next steps. Mr. Alexander?
We do, and we'll be meeting with the subcommittee of the City Council on Transportation and working through some recommendations to get back to City Council.
Very good. It's clear as mud. That was a lot of fun. Let's do more of that. Okay, moving into agenda item 6.e, discussion on seeking a grant from the Texas Water Development Board. This is TWDB for the construction of elements of the Water Bridge Plan and engaging a consultant to provide professional services in connection with the grant application process. Mr. Alexander, this should be an easy one.
It is, Mayor. Thank you. And I know it's been a long night, so I'll be brief, but we have an exciting opportunity to apply for funding through the Texas Water Development Board with their $1 billion in funding through the Water Supply and Infrastructure Grant Program. This is a one-time opportunity that the state legislature has provided cities and water suppliers throughout the state of Texas to apply for funding to get their water supply, water distribution projects completed. Based on our population, we'd be eligible up to $15 million in funding. We are definitely interested in pursuing this grant, in particular as it relates to the Water Bridge Plan. We think the Water Bridge Plan in its totality is an excellent candidate for this particular grant program. We would recommend that, and I've been speaking with Justin Rackley here, who's with Garver, who is currently designing your two water tanks, the 1.5 million gallon elevated storage tank and a 3 million gallon ground storage tank, to work with them on helping us apply for this grant funding so we can, you know, take as big of a swing at this as we can in trying to bring home some additional funding that will go toward the Water Bridge Plan. We also worked with Hilltop Securities in thinking through a call feature that would allow us to go ahead and issue the $40 million in debt that you've been contemplating. But if we were to receive the $15 million in funding or any portion thereof, you know, that would occur. We would be notified after the bonds were issued, but we would want to build in some flexibility into that debt issuance to be able to call some of those bonds and repay that debt or the proceeds back and not owe that throughout the term of the debt. So working with Hilltop on that as well to structure that. But this is kind of where we're headed with this. We think it's a great opportunity to seek some funding for this program. And Justin's here to answer any questions you might have with regards to the work his firm has done in the past on working with Texas Water Development Board or other federal opportunities as well. So.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thank you to Garver. I know that you guys are working diligently on this. My first question to Mr. Alexander was, do they have experience doing this? He said absolutely. You guys do that, and you specialize in that. Do we have questions? Councilman Dodson?
Yes. Steve, I don't know if this is for you or for you as well, but what's typically the timing associated with something like this? I know that these grants can be nebulous in nature in terms of it's kind of a black box. You do your best up front, you put it in, and you know, you wait however much time and you get what you get or you don't, right? So I'm just wondering what, I guess this question is for you.
I think it's good. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, please, if you don't
like
mind.
to take the lecture?
Yeah, if you don't mind coming up, that'd be great. Sorry about that.
No worries.
That's why he came tonight. He wanted to speak.
So yeah, so if you could help us with what that process typically looks like, although I know that the tail on these is always in question. What's been your experience here?
So this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience with Texas Water Development Board. We have great state legislators that have earmarked $1 billion worth of investment that is going to be administered differently than standard SRF and WIFIA and SWIFT abridged applications. There's currently a public comment period that's open with hundreds of outstanding questions that are currently being answered by the Texas Water Development Board. This is a simplified application process that if any of you all have been involved in the PIF, the project information forms for the state revolving funds, they have the money available. They want to spend the money, and they've allocated funds based on population size. So as Mr. Alexander mentioned, there's a 15 million. To the comment or to the question about timing, the application period for this grant program opens in March of this year. So there's no date associated with that. Right now, it's just nebulous with March of 26. They've mentioned that the due date for the applications is July 2026. The commitments will be finalized in the fall of this year.
Wow.
And then closing of escrows is in the third quarter of 2027. And then the funds have to be spent in the third quarter of 2031. So they've already established those dates and those timelines. And I would argue that this isn't nebulous. They've got the money. They know that they need to invest based on our, depending on which resource you read, either our C- or D rating for a water infrastructure system. And they want to give this money out as quickly as they can. And I've talked to Mr. Alexander and other clients that we support. This program is really geared towards projects that have been shelved and collecting dust and will be shovel ready by the July timeframe. So there's a lot of clients that we're working with that are having us complete expedited designs to get those projects complete, because you do get bonus points for being shovel ready in July whenever you submit, whenever the deadline closes in July.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Good explanation.
Great question, great explanation. My question would be, are these Texas fund, set-aside funds, or are these federal funds that have trickled down into state?
These are state funds.
Okay, so these are state set-asides. Very good.
So they will be administered through the Texas Grant Program. So if y'all are familiar with standard funding procedures, typically they have the American Iron and Steel, they have the Buy America, Build America, they have the environmental assessments. This program is going to be a fraction of those requirements. In lieu of the American Iron and Steel, you have the U.S. Iron and Steel, you have the Davis-Bacon wage rates. There's no environmental assessments that are needed for this, because again, going back to the question, they want to spend these monies. So there are some other items that I've already worked with the city to identify. You have to have a water conservation plan, you have to have a water use study, a water loss audit, and a water loss validation. All of those are state requirements, and they have been complied with. So most of the check boxes have been completed. It's just submitting that application to get your name as a consideration for the allocation of these funds.
Well, you have our raised storage ready to go, shovel ready with engineering?
Which
Yes.
project was that?
Yes, all of them will be shovel ready by July. Yeah,
Just double checking.
Yeah, the water wells, Brian, correct me if I say it.
It's any subset of that water bridge plan. You guys are just gonna have it all ready.
Well, I mean,
$40 million worth of projects. We'll have it all
It's
teed
going to
up
be
for $50 million.
a water supply infrastructure improvement project for the city of Heath.
Very good. Okay,
Wonderful.
all right, very good. Are there any other questions, Council? No questions? Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Great work, Mr. Alexander, your staff, and thank you to Garber. Appreciate you guys doing that. We are looking for ways that we can get any assistance possible to create reprieve from all this infrastructure that we're needing to build out. If there's no further discussion on this, just a congratulations. We will now move into agenda item number 7. It's your favorite. This meeting is adjourned at 9:13.